Welcome to the School of Wisdom, a weekly podcast produced for the Bible Bistro, studying the book of Proverbs chapter by chapter. My son, hear the instruction of your father. Forsake not the law of your mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace to your head, and chains about your neck. Now, this week's lesson. Hey friends, welcome back to the School of Wisdom podcast here in the Bible Bistro. The Bible Bistro hosts Daily Dose Radio, Creek Road Baptist Pulpit, and the School of Wisdom podcast. The School of Wisdom podcast is uploaded weekly on Thursday. Creek Road Baptist Pulpit is uploaded weekly on Wednesday. And, of course, our flagship program, Daily Dose Radio, is a 5-minute-a-day, 5-day-a-week studying the Psalms verse-by-verse podcast. You can find it Monday through Friday. It's right here in the Bible Bistro. And today we're looking at Proverbs chapter 11. And so I hope you'll open your Bible up and find Proverbs chapter 11. Listen, you can go to my website, which is my-dailydose.com, and get a copy of the outline that I'm going to be teaching from today. These outlines will help you, and you don't have to go to the website just to get the outline just for the podcast. If you just want to get the outline just for your own personal study and forget the podcast, that's fine too. You can begin at the beginning, chapter 1, and work your way all the way up through chapter 11. Or if you're just interested in a particular chapter of Proverbs, well, these can stand alone as commentary on that particular chapter as well. So you're welcome to do it however you like. This is all free and just for you. Today, chapter 11. And in chapter 11, we're in the second part, the second section in the book of Proverbs. We have 31 verses. And I've dubbed this chapter the Do Right chapter because of the prevalence of the word righteousness or righteous in this chapter. There's a whole lot in here about righteousness and its blessings, the righteous and his friends, and the outcome of righteousness. So we're going to look at those things today. But right off the bat, we begin in verses 1 through 4a, talking about business and money. So if you don't want to talk about business or money, if you don't want God to interfere with what you're doing in business or money, you might want to turn off your radio or your podcast player right now because you're going to hear it. And it comes to us right first thing in verse 1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of strangers shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath. Right off the bat, we have God's statement about business. How do you conduct your business? Do you have a false balance or a just weight? Because a false balance is an abomination. If you're cheating your customers by charging more than you should, we don't use balances and weights quite as much as we used to, although there are some things that are still weighed out. And if you're cheating your customer by doing that, or whatever underhanded means you are doing to make more money than you should, it's an abomination, but a just weight. So when you deal with equity and truthfulness with your customer, God delights in that. And that is righteousness. And of course, we're going to pick up that theme of righteousness here in verse 4b and 5 and 6 and 8 and 10 and so forth. You notice the next thing it says there, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. Of course, pride is behind setting a false balance, isn't it? If I'm so proud of myself that I think that what I have is worth the money, how much do you think of yourself? Well, that's going to be discovered in how much you charge sometimes. Pride cometh, then cometh shame. The integrity of the upright shall guide them. Now here, if you have the outline, you'll notice that I have upright highlighted, and you'll see upright throughout this particular chapter. I think it comes in 4 times. It's another word for the righteous, but here we have it in verse 3, the integrity of the upright. So again, you either have pride, which creates the false balance, or you have uprightness, which creates the just weight. Which is it? Because the integrity of the upright. Are you doing business? Are you conducting your business with integrity? If you are, good for you. God's delighted in that. If you are not, shame on you. That's an abomination to the Lord. But the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath. So you may be making money, but friends, your money is not going to help you when judgment time comes. And we're all going to stand before the bar of God with empty pockets. In the outline, you'll notice that I have righteousness's blessings. Because we have 1, 2, 3 things right here, right off the bat, which tells us what righteousness gives us. But righteousness delivereth from death. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of just men perisheth. All right, so what is it that righteousness blesses us with? You'll notice it 3 times there, 4b, 5, 6. We have the righteousness, so this is the thing. This is the action of doing right. Again, this is the do right chapter. So if I'm doing right, I'm doing righteousness, and what does that do? It delivers from death. That's the very first thing. The righteousness of the perfect directs his way. So while the wicked fall, the perfect man, the upright man, the righteous man, he's going to have his way directed, not stumbling. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them. So again, we have deliverance. Now, you'll notice if you have the outline, I have delivered highlighted. Delivereth, deliver. There in 8, we have it again. In 9, we have it again. It's all over this chapter. It's the outcome. It's one of the blessings of righteousness. Righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them. So we're not talking about deliverance from death necessarily, but we are contrasting that with transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. So there's not going to be that kind of taking for the righteous man because he's not walking in his own naughtiness. A wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, the hope of the unjust perishes. Now that brings up another point I wanted to make here. You'll see if you have the outline that I've divided this into 2 columns. The left column has the righteous, the just, the upright, and so forth. The right column has the wicked. So all the things that tell us about the wicked or the transgressor or the sinner or the fool or the hypocrite, is over here in that right-hand column. And you'll notice how often the word destroy, wrath, fall, perish, overthrown, all of those words, which are very negative verbs, telling us about the wicked man, you'll notice how often they occur. It's just over and over and over. It's almost like a heartbeat that runs through this column over here on the right-hand side. It's the thread that connects everything that has to do with the wicked man. Over on the other side, we have the column of life. On the left-hand side with the righteous. Righteousness delivers from death. Well, if it delivers from death, then what do you have? What remains? Life. So this is the life section. Deliverance is over here. Rejoicing is over here. Exaltation is over here. Honor is over here. These things, integrity is over here on the left-hand side because that's where righteousness is. If you have the outline, you'll notice that the next section I have beginning in verse 8 and, traveling all the way down to verse 20, I have the righteous and his friends. We start off with the righteous man. Notice verse 8, the righteous. Okay, so we've been talking about righteousness and the benefits of that way of life. Now we're talking about the righteous. So this is the man or the woman who's walking in righteousness, the righteous. The righteous is delivered out of trouble. Notice the theme of deliverance again. While the wicked is handed over to destruction and to perishing, the righteous is delivered from that. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. So instead of the righteous going to trouble, the wicked goes in his place. An hypocrite with his mouth destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Again, the theme of deliverance. Now we have the first of the friends of the righteous man, and that is the just. Notice there at the end of verse 9, through knowledge shall the just be delivered. When it goeth well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth. Now there's the righteous man again. When the wicked perisheth, there is shouting. By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted. Okay, here's another one of the friends of the righteous man, the upright man. And we've already seen him. We've seen him twice. Verse 6 and in verse 3. But here he is again in our friends section. By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. See again how these dark themes are over here with the wicked man. The city is exalted by the upright, but the wicked overthrows it by his mouth. Verse 12, he that is void of wisdom despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. Here's the next, or the third, in the list of friends of the righteous man. That is the man of understanding. So we've had friends of the righteous man, the just, and the upright. Now, number 3, we have the man of understanding. He doesn't say anything. He holds his peace. A talebearer reveals secrets. A friend of the righteous man is the man who understands how to hold his peace. Sometimes you just don't need to say anything, do you? And it's wise not to speak. But he that is of a faithful spirit concealeth the matter. Where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors there is safety. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it. He that hateth suretyship is sure. Okay, here's the next friend or relation to the righteous man, the man that hates suretyship. Remember suretyship? We've talked about this before. Previous chapter, we talked about being surety for the stranger. If you've stricken your hand with a stranger, if you're a surety for your friend, you need to get yourself out of that situation, right? So here it is again. And suretyship is nothing more than being a guarantee for somebody else's debt. Don't ever do that. That's just not wise. And so the man that hates suretyship is a friend of the righteous man. Notice another friend of the righteous man, a gracious woman. She retains honor, and strong men retain riches. So the gracious woman is a friend to the righteous man. Gracious in what way? Well, she's elegant, and she's refined, and she's in control, and she's disciplined. This is the gracious woman. And then in 17, the merciful man doeth good to his own soul. So a man of mercy is a friend of the righteous man. And then we have him contrasted with the cruel. Mercy and cruelty are contrasted here. The merciful man doeth good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. Notice the merciful man does good to his soul. So this is soul care, to be merciful. Somehow you trouble your flesh when you're cruel. Somehow being cruel has an effect on the body. Boy, and isn't that not true? We've seen that before, haven't we? The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So here's the next fellow in our list of friends of the righteous man, he that sows righteousness. So this is another friend of the righteous man. You're sowing righteousness. So you're like the fellow in the parable that Jesus told. The sower went forth to sow. And he's sowing righteousness here. As righteousness tendeth to life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. They that are of a froward heart are an abomination to the Lord, but such as are upright in their way are his delight. So again, we come back to the righteous there in verse 19, come back to righteousness, as righteousness tendeth to life. So this is sort of a summary now of all the friends that we've seen here in this chapter. So he that pursues evil pursues it to his own death. So again, we have the issues of life and death illustrated here in the Proverbs. Always, every chapter, we have the difference between living a life that tends to life and living a life that tends to death. And so we see it here very clearly. The wicked man, he that pursues evil, he pursues it to his own death. Verse 20 gives us a very interesting comparison. In verse 20, we want to compare that to verse 1. So if you look back at verse 1, and you'll notice in verse 1, that was about the false balance and the just weight, right? The false balance, abomination to the Lord, just weight is his delight. Here, notice, they that are of a froward heart are an abomination to the Lord, but such as are upright in their way are his delight. So you see how these compare. So when we go back and we look at the false balance and the just weight, we know that we're not talking about a scale that has been manipulated. What we're talking about is a heart that decided to manipulate the scale, because the froward heart would do that. And it's the froward heart that the Lord is concerned about here, not the scale. Of course, if you do that, you demonstrate a froward heart. You demonstrate your pride, and you demonstrate all of that. But the Lord's concerned about the heart here, because what does he want? He wants uprightness in the heart, and such as are upright in their way, those are his delight. Are you upright in your way? And how do you say, well, Pastor, I don't know how to be upright in my way? Well, I'll tell you. Follow the Lord's way. Read your Bible. Come and confess your sin. Reach out to the Lord Jesus. He'll forgive you of those sins and give you a brand new life. He'll open your heart. He'll give you his Spirit, and you'll be able to walk in the commands, and you'll be able to walk in freedom and in liberty. That's how you walk an upright life. We come now to the end of the chapter, beginning in verse 21. And in verse 21 we have, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. Compare that to the man that's sowing righteousness, and now the seed of the righteous. So you see there's this continuation here in thought and theme. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. A jewel of gold in a swine's snout. I don't think there could be anything more derogatory that the writer Solomon could have said about this fair woman. Because for the Jew, what good is a swine? Absolutely no good. It's just an animal that they can't do anything with. They're not going to touch it. They're not going to eat it. They're not going to have it around as a pet. It's a swine. And so to say a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, well, you can't do anything with that. But now this is a similitude, because you have as at the beginning of this. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman without discretion. Well, what do you do with a fair woman who doesn't have discretion? You can't do anything with it, just like that swine. You can't do anything with that. Behind my house there's a barn, and in the top of that barn there are some vultures that have nested. I would never hunt those vultures for food. That would never be a thing I would do. You know, if everything just broke down and I had to suddenly go hunt for food, that would be one bird I would never bother. I would leave it alone. I'm not going to eat a vulture. And so what good does it do me? You see, what good does a fair woman without discretion do? Nothing. There's nothing good there. Even though it looks pretty, it's useless. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is that scattereth, and yet increaseth. And there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. Now we're back to money again, aren't we? So the righteous and his outcome, number one, he's going to be delivered. Number two, his desire is only good. Number three, he will increase because he's the one that scatters. And number four, the liberal soul will be made fat. So there's going to be even more increase, health and prosperity, and watering for the man who is liberal in his giving. Oh, but we're not done, are we? He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be on the head of him that selleth it. So if you're withholding and hoarding, that's no good. Again, we go back. The liberal man, the man who sells what he has to help other people, he's going to be blessed. A blessing shall be on his head. So again, the outcome of righteousness. Verse 27, he that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, But he that seeketh mischief, it shall come to him. You know, if you're looking for the devil, you're going to find him. If you're looking for the Lord, you're going to find him. So, what are you looking for? Are you seeking good? Because if you are, you're going to have favor. If you're seeking mischief, you're going to find mischief. He that trusts in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. Again, the outcome of righteousness. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. Fruitfulness, fatness, flourishing, favor, blessing, my goodness. Those are all the outcomes, and that's just a few that I've mentioned here. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. Now here we have a little bit of the shade of Solomon in Ecclesiastes, because remember in Ecclesiastes it's written under the sun. So he's talking about not spiritual things, but earthly things. Here we have just a little taste of that, almost a little tincture of that idea when he says in the earth. So he's saying that the righteous shall be recompensed in this life. It will be made right here in this life. But not only the righteous, much more the wicked and the sinner. They will find reward, and not reward, but judgment and punishment, falling and curse, perishing and death in the earth. All right, well, I think that takes us all the way to the end there, chapter 11. I hope you'll join me again next week as we study chapter 12, the School of Wisdom podcast. Hey, thanks for listening to the School of Wisdom podcast. If you're listening to this over YouTube, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time one of these podcasts is uploaded. I really appreciate all my followers, and I try to respond to each and every one of your questions. Come again next week, and we'll enjoy another lesson in the School of Wisdom.